All right. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much to the folks that joined us virtually, as well as those that are here. And Shannon has asked me to run the meeting. We only have one agenda item, and I thank you very much for making yourselves available for this meeting to talk about website accessibility. We're going to start with roundtable introductions so that everybody can know where everybody is situated in the room, okay? Would you start?
Sure. I'm Stephanie. I'm with the planning department. I'll take minutes today.
Denise Elliott, I'm a committee member.
Carol Magnan, committee member.
Diane Morrell, accessibility coordinator.
Peter Tenazzo, Sault Ste. Marie Planning Department.
Fred Petronella from the IT department.
And I'm also with the IT department.
Thank you very much. And online, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourselves.
I'm Shannon Gallons, AAC Chair.
You're muted, Marchie.
Marchie Bruni, Councillor Ward 4.
Jordan DeRose, committee member.
Thank you, everyone. All right, so we are meeting for the purposes of talking about about the city website. We have Dan Gallons, who's going to do a presentation for us on what our current website accessibility is, and about what they're hoping to do if they're able to build a new website in the year. There is a request from the committee for funds from the barrier removal, not the barrier removal budget, but from the barrier removal reserves of, I believe, around the area 21,000.
Yeah.
With the total cost being around 65,000 to build a new website, which will include an enhanced level of accessibility. I think we're at the AA standard, and we're looking at bringing it up to a AAA standard as much as possible.
As best we can.
There are some things that can't be done yet.
I'll try my best to speak to what level we're at. It's not a clear line anyways.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll let you take it away then, Dan.
All right.
Derek, thank you for joining us.
To share.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask, once I get this presentation up, if somebody can just throw me a thumbs up and let me know if it's on screen.
It's good.
Looks good, Marchie. Thank you. All right. So, as the introduction said, my name is Dan Gallons. I'm one of the programmers in the IT department, and I oversaw the building of the initial of the current version of Sault Ste. Marie.ca. What we're here to talk about today is a revised version, a brand new website, and hopefully, as we're doing that, we can increase the accessibility and increase the usability for everyone at the same time. So, first off, we're going to start off with a quick little video. Diane found this one. It's actually from W3C, which is the World Wide Web Consortium. They're kind of responsible for the standards on the World Wide Web. So they set the rules, and they have a group within themselves that kind of guides the accessibility standards for websites. If we follow those standards, then everything kind of falls into place with accessibility. So we'll start off with a little video that kind of introduces some of the ideas.
And hopefully this works for the folks.
Web accessibility perspectives. Video captions. Video isn't just about pictures, it's also about sound. Without the audio, you'd have to guess what this film is about. Frustrating, isn't it? Not knowing what's going on. That's the situation for everyone who can't hear. Captions make videos accessible, which is also handy for people who want to watch video in loud environments, or where you need to be very, very quiet. Colors with good contrast. There's something about great design that allows it to go practically unnoticed. But it doesn't take much to make things confusing and frustrating. Choosing colors with poor contrast makes navigating, reading, and interacting a real pain. Good design means sufficient contrast between foreground and background colors. That's not just text and images, but links, icons, and buttons. If it's important enough to be seen, then it needs to be clear. And this is essential for people with low contrast sensitivity, which becomes more common as we age. With good colors, websites and applications can be easier to use in more situations, like in different lighting conditions. Voice recognition. Imagine if you could only communicate with your family by writing. Sometimes it's just easier to speak. One of the advances of technology is voice recognition, whether it's searching the web,
19th century architecture,
dictating emails,
send email to Jack Hard,
or controlling your navigation app. Many people with physical disabilities rely on voice recognition to use the computer.
place order,
But for that to happen, websites and apps need to be properly coded.
go, cancel,
Voice recognition can help lots of other people with temporary limitations too, like an injured arm.
Place order.
It can also prevent injuries becoming worse, like RSI, repetitive stress injury, or for people simply preferring voice.
Text to speech.
Some people can't see the text on the screen. Fortunately, computers can convert text to speech.
It's technology that many people who are blind have been relying on for years. But it's also important for many people with dyslexia and very useful for people with difficulty reading text, as well as some people who just like to multitask. But for this to work, websites and apps have to be properly coded, which has the added benefit of helping search engines index websites' contents better. Clear layout and design. Poor layout can be very frustrating. And the same applies to the web. Good design involves good layout, and that means a better user experience. This includes clear headings, navigation bars, and consistent styling. Any web user will get frustrated with bad layout and design. Complex layouts also make finding information difficult or impossible for people with visual disabilities. And they are confusing for people with cognitive and learning disabilities who need clarity and consistency of the presentation. Bad design also impacts anyone who isn't particularly confident around computers. Notifications and feedback. All the right gears can be put in motion. The hands can be at the exact place they need to be. But if you don't get the response that you're expecting, you'll end up wondering if there's some sort of problem. It's the same on the web. Without clear notifications and feedback, people are quickly disoriented and confused, especially error messages, which are often complex and confusing. Yet making them understandable is usually quite simple. Making websites and apps predictable and understandable makes them accessible to people with cognitive and learning disabilities, and more usable for everyone, especially for people with lower computer skills. Large links, buttons and controls. Trying to hit a small target requires lots of effort. Many websites and applications try to thread the needle. But on the web, we can make areas for clicking and tapping larger and easier to use, which is handy on mobile devices, especially when we might be moving around at the time, which is critical for people with reduced dexterity.
Customizable text. What's right for you doesn't necessarily work for the next person. Customization isn't always just a question of preference, though. Sometimes it's a necessity. Being able to adjust the text is crucial for people with low vision and dyslexia. Properly coded websites and applications allow the text to be customized. For example, to change its size, spacing, font, and colors without loss of functions or clarity. Understandable content. Instead of saying, to postulate a conceit more irksome than being addressed in sesquipedalian syntax is adamantine, it is better to say, being spoken to in unnecessarily long and complicated language is a pain. Yet many websites lack structuring, using headings, lists, and separation. Or they use overly complex language, jargon, and unexplained acronyms. It makes them difficult and unappealing to use for many people, including non-native speakers, and makes them unusable for people with cognitive and learning disabilities.
Keyboard compatibility. Not being able to use your computer because your mouse doesn't work is frustrating. Many people use only the keyboard to navigate websites, either through preference or circumstance. Whether it's temporarily limited mobility, a permanent physical disability, or simply a broken mouse, the result is the same. Websites and apps need to be operable by keyboard. Web accessibility, essential for some, useful for all. Visit w3.org/WAI/perspectives.
So hopefully that little video gave everyone kind of an idea what we're looking to achieve. So now is where I get a little bit more technical. The way that W3C guides developers and website builders, the way that they guide the accessibility rules are documented in something called the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, or WCAG. Basically, it's a document that describes accessible techniques for building a website. So it was produced by the World Wide Web Consortium, who is responsible for the open standards used on the web. They basically write the rules for websites, and the browser makers and the accessible technology providers follow those rules. WCAG is grouped into 4 sections: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Within each of those sections is a separate set of rules. Each of the rules within those sections is assigned one of 3 levels, be it level A, level AA, or level AAA. The level A criteria are ones that should be achieved. They're the ones that every website should achieve. The level AA's are a bit harder to achieve, but they should be achieved. The level AAA's are the hardest ones to achieve. However, some of them are just plain simple to implement. It's just they're ranked by importance. I guess I could say the level A ones have a greater impact, while the AAA ones might have a smaller impact, though they're still impactful. So each of the rules, they focus on things like the easiness to understand the content. like it was said in the video we just watched, I believe that the guideline within WCAG is that the content should be reasonably understandable by someone with a grade 10 education. So, and I believe that's assigned a level 8, which is something that we have to achieve. So if there's content on the city website that you need a university PhD to understand it, then we're not achieving what we're supposed to be achieving. Other details include sufficient color contrast. If the background and the foreground don't have sufficient color contrast, then the text is invisible, hard to read, that sort of thing. And assistive technology friendliness. Does it work with a keyboard? Does it work with a screen reader? Does it work with, it's escaping me the name of, there's different ways to navigate websites, different accessible tools. Does it work with those tools?
And just to interject a bit, Dan, what Dan has identified here will be some of the items that we'll be including in the RFP when we release it for the redevelopment. So these are some of the critical items that will be must-haves or specifications in the RFP.
So right now we are at the 2A standard. We meet that because that was as of January 1st of 2021, but just for new content, right?
For new, it really depends. Ontario's kind of iffy on things. Well, what I'll do as well, but Ontario's a bit iffy in that there's sort of an escape clause in Ontario's law or guidelines in that you if you can't reasonably do it, then you need to provide an alternative. And also, when they did introduce that in January, it applies to new development, not necessarily old development. So you didn't really have to retrofit your old stuff to meet the new standards. But if you're doing a significant enough refresh, which that's what the goal is here, making a new website, then you need to hit the new marks.
And the new mark is actually the AA.
The new-
AAA is not yet required.
It's not yet required. I doubt it ever will be. I don't know if it ever will. There's new revisions of the document as well. The government's still looking at version 2.0 of this document. 2.1 has already been released. 2.2 is going to be released possibly before the end of the year. 3.0 is in development. So although and we all know the speed that things move, but I don't believe that they'll ever say that things have to hit AAA. That being said, we hit a lot of the AAA assigned criteria. It's not that we don't, it's that to basically say that your site hits level A rating, you have to hit all of the level A criteria. To hit level AA, you have to hit all of the AA criteria. But that just because we don't hit them all doesn't mean we don't hit some. We definitely hit more than not.
I think most places do the AA.
Yeah. And it's really not hard to achieve. Some of it is probably laziness. To be quite frank, it's not that hard to choose two colors that you can read the text when you have a background and a foreground color. It's not that hard to do. However, does it fit with your chosen aesthetic? Maybe not. Maybe you have to rethink that. But it's not hard to do that. It's just prioritizing it.
The AAA would be ideal.
Oh, the AAA would be ideal. Some of the criteria for AAA are probably a bit unfeasible for us. But I believe that can't remember, last time I scanned, we might be already double A on the city website. Some of the things were easy to retrofit, like the blue bar on the top. I believe that I tried to grab the blue from the city logo. Like we've changed the city logo since launching this website. So we kind of tried to retrofit in some new colors and that sort of thing. I don't believe the blue and the white is a perfect foreground background combination. So that blue is a hint darker than the blue on the crest. There's lots of tools that'll tell you the differences between the foreground and background colors and if they hit the marks. So that one, just kind of inch the slider over a little bit on the blue, get it dark enough so that it hits the marks. And really it's indistinguishable. But to someone who needs those foreground background color differences, it's important. So the current city website, it was launched in 2015. It was developed internally over 3 years, starting in 2012. So it's basically the first drops of code on it are what, 10 years old now. So it was at that time developed to meet the web content accessibility guidelines, level 2.0, level A, and it exceeds that criteria. It's not that we shot for the bare minimum, because if you can do better, you do better. And over time, we've done things that, you know what, if I spend about 10 minutes on this, I can fix something. So we've done things like that over time.
Yes, you can just leave it on the table. Thank you very much. Okay, you too.
So how have things changed since we've launched it? So in 2018, W3C, or the World Wide Web Consortium, they released the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.1, which actually bumps up the importance of some success criteria. So that means some things that were originally level AA are now level A. This is now something that you need to prioritize better. It also added some new success criteria to all 3 levels. In 2019, the city introduced new branding, the beautiful circle with the 4 different colors. Those 4 colors have been incorporated where they can be throughout the website. But sometimes when you retrofit in colors, you can only do so much on an old template. A fun analogy is that it's hard to bake chocolate chips into the cookie after you cook the cookie. So you can only do so much on an old website to change the colors to meet new success criteria. Sometimes you just have to start again. In 2021, the Ontario government increased the success criteria for all new websites and government websites, not general public, but government websites, from WCAG level A to level AA. So that means that we need to hit more success criteria on the city website. We do. It's not that we don't do those things, but now they're mandatory. In 2023, scheduled version 2.2 of the document will be released, and version 3 is already in the works. So there's more and more thought being put into accessibility. There's more and more thought prioritizing certain parts of the document, and we are obviously keeping an eye on all of these things. I could see the Ontario government potentially looking at version 2.1 of the document. It's out. It's released in 2018. Because 2.2 is not fully released yet, I would assume that would take some time for them to review. 3 is still in draft right now, but I would assume that the next time Ontario bumps up the level of success criteria, I would think that it would be on the 2.1 version of the document, probably still level AA. So a couple of goals that we have for the new city website. We want to improve the user experience for everyone. And honestly, when you integrate accessibility concerns into the website, it does improve it for everyone. When you can navigate the website with your keyboard, which is how I do a lot of testing, the keyboard actually emulates very similar to someone who's using a switch device. So if it works on a keyboard, it works on a switch device quite well. I run through the website on the regular with, I use NVDA as a screen reader because it's a free one. However, if it works decently well in NVDA, it should work in JAWS. It should work in, I believe, VoiceOver is the Mac one. So keeping the screen readers in mind. And all that takes is structuring your document properly. So it's not hard to do, but when you say that a heading is a heading and content is content, and you make lists into lists, that's all you need to do to make things more accessible. It's when you start doing weird things and start adding images in front of paragraphs and pretending it's a list. Well, if it's a list, in the code, call it a list, and then it'll function as a list on screen readers and on all the different devices. So some of it is just a matter of doing your content right.
Question for you, Dan.
Yeah.
When you talk about content, you're making a page, you're speaking in the back end of a website, building that page. You're not talking about, I've created a document, say it's the agenda for the committee meeting, and I'm not using the correct formatting for it.
That can actually hit, and that can hit the problem too. It's the same idea. Like when you're in a Word document and you just blow up the size of some text rather than assigning it as a heading.
Right.
Then if you assign headings as headings, then you can jump around the document. If you just make the text really big, you cannot. Then you have to go through the whole document. So it's the same idea with the city website. We have, and I've poked them real hard to work on making sure you structure the content correctly, and they've gotten a lot better. But when you revisit things and you see, okay, I did something weird there, we can, by revisiting the website, you get an opportunity to kind of look at those things.
So when you're saying screen readers and all this here,
Yep.
okay. Now, you got to be able to read this 3 different ways. There's PDF, Word, and text.
Yes.
Are you going to be able to do that?
That we are working actively on. The biggest issue we have is with the website, it's a bit more controlled because we create, basically the people who add the content to the website are limited. We have certain users with access. They're trained in how to fill out the form. They only really are touching the middle part of the website. The rest of the website, they're not touching. When it comes to the Word documents and the PDFs, some of our clerks do need a bit of extra training in how to structure those things. The thing is, when they upload those onto the website, then they do become web content, and we need to make sure that they follow those proper rules. And we should really be sitting down with more and more of the people who are releasing those. However, because things are more controlled with who can upload things to the website, those people are getting trained on the red flags and what if they see a PDF that is bad, then they're getting more and more trained on vetoing it or fixing it.
It's being vetted through the communication office for the most part, so any sort of documents that get put onto the website do get reviewed by the communications office to ensure what Dan has said is adhered to. So that process is being done, and moving forward, that will be the process. As well as Dan said, we hope to get training done with our staff as well, that can create these type of documents. Clerk's department is looking at certain templates for people to use, and adhere to those standards, and then use those templates to create documents, PDF documents from there. So we're trying our best to vet that and train people on it.
So is this a yes or a no? You're gonna be able to do this?
We'll be able to do it, yes, yeah. It'll take some time to get there, but yes, it'll be the document, anything that's posted in PDF or Word or on the site will be readable.
Okay, because once you get this going and it's all set up, okay, it's just
Yeah.
easier to get this done while you're working on it rather than after it's all
That's
done,
right.
going back and
Yeah.
trying to redo it because you know that probably won't happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's.
And some of the problem with old PDFs, they may not meet the current standards because they're an old council agenda. Before we got our new agenda software, which does a whole lot better at putting together agendas. So some of the older stuff may not meet the current PDF guidelines for accessibility. However, we're working on making sure that if it doesn't, that we have some alternative available, or that we fix it, and put up a new version.
Okay, that would.
Yeah, and in some cases, we've actually removed some old agendas because they just didn't adhere to it. So we removed it from the website just to be compliant with the standards.
And we have bylaws on the city website. And we found certain bylaws that were scanned versions of the bylaws.
Still print scan.
The print scan, exactly. However, that makes the text not accessible to screen readers, unfortunately. So the ones that we discovered, we have made sure that we have exported them properly into a more readable PDF. So some of it is as we find it, we correct it. Of course, if you find something that is not passable, it's not readable, you can definitely let our corporate communications know, and they will do their best to correct it.
So with that being said, after this is all done, before it's put out to everyone, who tests it? Okay, just a suggestion. Why not have some people, okay, test the website before you put it out to the public?
That's a fantastic idea. And like I've actively been trained. I've taken about 20 workshop days in testing, accessibility, that sort of thing. But obviously, someone who lives it on a day-to-day will beat me at testing anything. So it would be fantastic to have a test group take a look at it with different perspectives. It's actually interesting that you mentioned that, because that's kind of the direction of the new 3.0 version of the document. It's more about personas and thinking rather than a hypothetical person, we think about a person who is blind and has limited cognitive skills, or is just injured their wrist and needs to do a certain task. So they're putting more of a human perspective on this technical type document. So having active people that have a set of skills and abilities for testing the website, that would be fantastic. We can probably work with Diane on getting something when it gets closer to that time.
And it could be one of the things that we can put into the evaluation of the RFP, where we get a team put together that can sit down and evaluate the proposals sort of, because everybody's gonna come back with some sort of a mock-up of their website as a submission, and we can get an evaluation team put together. That's an excellent point.
Dan, I got, sorry, were you done? Did you have more questions?
Oh, no, not yet.
I got a couple questions. So I'm kind of hearing three things here. I'm hearing that there's a little bit of a potential training that needs to happen so that for those folks that are updating websites, need to be doing it. I'm calling that the content part, but that needs to be done the right way with the right documents, not the old print scan. I'm also hearing there's a little bit of a vetting that happens, but we're also kind of crowdsourcing that, right? Like if you see a problem with a document, let me know and we'll fix it. As part of the, and I just want to be clear, like we're talking here about creating a new website. As part of the new website, I'm assuming it's kind of out with the old, in with the new. There's going to be a transfer of documents from the old to the new. Will there be a complete vetting of all those documents? Like how will that happen, or will that just be sort of, you'll code it?
Ideally, there would be some consideration as things are put up. In the end, it will be like a company will be putting together the website.
Yeah.
Will be saying whether it passes our criteria, and corporate communications would be responsible for passing along the content to build up the website. But like if we're saying in our RFP, we got to be hitting level 2.0 or WCAG 2.0 level AA, then that's part of their criteria, and the website shouldn't be accepted by us until it meets that criteria. And if that means that,
And that's what
that being said, they're going to create a template that meets that criteria.
Right.
There is going to be some responsibility on staff
On the
to
content.
ensure that when you're filling out the little box in the middle of the website, you're filling it out properly. Because you can do bad things. We can do bad things on our website right now, and occasionally I find bad things. But there will be some responsibility on the staff. I'm hopeful that when it comes to training the staff on how to enter information into the new website, that we can have a refresher on how to create accessible information or more accessible information. Be good to revisit that. I think there's been enough sort of staff changes that it could be revisited.
And then my last question, again, the accessibility committee essentially is being asked to pay 1/3 of the cost of the new website. That's out of the reserve, but that's the ask. So, and I think you alluded to it. You know, you made the comment, it's hard to bake chocolate chips into a cookie that's already been baked. So the code and what I call the back end, the back end of the existing website is 10 to 12 years old. Are there any challenges from an accessibility standpoint? I'm, assuming the code for the new website would be new, fresh, more modern code, I guess, if that's fair to say. Are there any challenges? Because the other option is to just refresh the website but use the same back end. Are there any? Can you maybe elaborate upon improvements that having that new code and that new back end, how that might help from an accessibility standpoint beyond what you could do right now with the existing back end? Is that fair?
That's a really good question. Really, really well done. And we don't,
This is
want Dan. That's not the intent. We just want to know what is coming.
But you've probably seen the Welcome to SSM initiatives, that new, get flashier website, that sort of thing. There's a lot of more modern things that we can do. And basically, when you create a website 10 years ago, you're using the code that works with the browsers 10 years ago. So you have to code it to work with browsers at that time. Browsers change. As you probably noticed, almost every time you log into Chrome, it's telling you it's been updated. So we can meet new standards, because now the coding options have changed. We can simplify a lot of things, because there's new features in browsers. Although we are hitting the level A and the level AA marks, we may have some workarounds to do them right now based on what was available at the time and what was available on the platform that we used. For example, there's some of the headings that were built into the current website. I'm talking like the template. There's accessible alternatives to a lot of the images on there. And the way that we had to code in those accessible alternatives, there's cleaner ways to do it now. So a lot, by revisiting it and refreshing the template, we're going to be able to drastically clean up the website, and that'll make it faster, because right now we have a lot of CRUD in there to support old versions of Internet Explorer. Well, Internet Explorer is not even supported anymore. So if we cleaned out all the Internet Explorer code, the website will go faster. Like there's just things that can be revisited given current browser technology, given current screen reader technology, given all those things. And by doing a new refresh, we kind of get an opportunity. If that makes sense.
So essentially what you're saying is with a new backend and new code, it gives you a lot more opportunities to bake in accessibility
exactly
at the outset. And then I guess going forward as new technologies, you have a better opportunity to be able to capture those without it being as cumbersome.
And with the old technology, the way it is now, we may not be able to achieve the level 3 that we're striving for.
Okay.
The back-end technology won't allow us to get there.
Okay.
Because it's so old. So
okay.
We need that, not only from our perspective, from an IT perspective, we need the back end to be the one newer, because you can take advantage of what Dan just says, but from an accessibility standpoint, the old technology won't get us there, because it's just, there's too many workarounds. In some cases, we may not be able to accomplish certain things. So we need that back end structure to get to the current, so to speak.
Got a question from online here, if it's okay.
Right ahead, Derek.
Okay, I have to let you guys know that I twice tried to go to vote. And guess what? I got told that my voting station was changed from 277A Northern Avenue to Old Garden River Road. Well, I don't live on Old Garden River Road. So that means I got to get a jacket on, get a bus, and get down there to Old Garden River Road. And I had no way of knowing this. It happened during this past election, and it happened during the federal election, where they took the polling station out of my building. They didn't let me know. Nobody called me and said, hey, do you know where you need to vote? There was no contact whatsoever with me. And like, I mean, we need it in Northern Avenue as well as Old Garden Road. There's seniors and there's disabled people that live here that can't get in a car or a bus, and we need our elections to be back.
Derek, is part of the voting that you're bringing forward having to do with the website? That information wasn't on the website?
Yeah, I know. But hang on for once.
Come to the phone right now. Please leave your name, number, and a brief message, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you and have a great day.
Hang on for a sec, guys.
Diane, I can speak a little bit on that.
Sure, go.
Derek should have got a voting card, and on the voting card,
Aye,
it would have
aye.
explained to him where his voting station would be. I do agree with him. I mean,
Okay,
it's unfortunate they didn't have a voting station at his building, but
Right, and certainly, I mean, we need to accept the feedback on the accessible election, but we have a very short time frame here to speak about the website. So I just wasn't sure, Derek, if your question or your comment had something to do with the accessible voting in regards to the website.
yeah, it was regards to the website. It's like I had no way of knowing twice in a row that I was supposed to go to Old Garden River Road.
So are you saying if the information could have been found on the website, you might have known that ahead of time?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
So it needs to be put on the website and where people can read it. Like
Yeah.
you get it read back to them.
This year, there actually was an online tool where you could go in and type in your address and it would tell you.
Oh, I know that, but I found that out after.
Okay, so that's more of a marketing piece or a communications piece.
Well, I think I might know what Derek's talking about because of a similar situation. And it had something to do with transit. They changed the bus schedule. So someone had gone on the website to see what the bus route changes were, and it wasn't in there. But what it helped was, if there is a change on the website, anything to do with the city, as soon as you go on that website, let's say you click voting or transit, first thing that'll pop up is changes that happen or notifications or notices.
So it's easy to find the changes.
So that's a design feature.
That could be something that we can discuss with corporate communications, having, in programmer speak, they call it a change log, where basically this piece of code or this piece of content changed. So you may need to consider it. So having a better way that you know that one of these pages changed, especially if it's significant to you, like your voting location or a bus that you're waiting for, that would be beneficial. So that could be a feature that we can look at on this new website, is keeping track of significant changes that people are looking for sure.
Yes, because that'd be like Derek going to his voting station where he thought he was supposed to go, but it had changed in the meantime. So he went all the way there for nothing. The same as transit, they had changed their schedule. So somebody went the old route and it wasn't there anymore and they didn't know. And they had checked the website before they went to catch the transit.
Yeah.
And nothing, it was still the old information.
So Dan, are these, I know there's a lot here, there's a few different issues, but are these things that could potentially be addressed better with a new back end and a new website?
I believe so. If we, and obviously we have to create an RFP where we're asking for this sort of thing.
Mhm.
But with any sort of website, you can have sort of special kind of pages. So you'll have like a site map, which basically lists all of the pages beneath the website. You'll have content pages where it's basically a free form field where they can talk. But we can also maybe look at some sort of better way to track changes and announce that the bus schedule page changed yesterday. That might be important to some. And maybe we can look at a way of offering subscriptions to that thing. Like right now, there's the news releases, it is possible to subscribe to them using the RSS standard or real simple syndication standard. So if you have an appropriate application, you can subscribe to the news releases on the city website, and usually within an hour, they'll pop up on your phone or your computer or whatever device you're using to subscribe to them. So we can make sure that those sort of features are in this new website, and maybe a filtered version where I can subscribe
Yeah.
to changes.
In
that-
transit. I'm only interested in transit, for example.
Some sort of filtered
Yeah,
level of changes.
Okay.
Or any sort of criteria. If there's an
municipal
emergency
election
feed,
or, yeah.
an election feed, I can subscribe to a topic. That would be an
Okay.
interesting,
Mhm.
I like that idea. I think that we should definitely look into that.
Okay, rather than a subscription or whatever, okay, so let's say you go on the city website, okay, like let's say in Derek's case or transit, so you go voting or elections or transit, you click on that, okay? You click on it, that, was that a hyperlink, will open up a notification saying changes or whatever. Or if you, not everybody's gonna subscribe.
It's true. And as much as I like the notification idea, it's a balancing act. Because that could get annoying for somebody who's now on the website for the first time. And I just want to read the website. I don't care about the changes. It's the first time I've been here. So the feature would have to be implemented, would have to be really considered. I'm not sure how to best announce changes to those who are interested in changes, I guess.
But see, it wouldn't be annoying, okay? So let's say transit or voting. I'm gonna click transit, hyperlink, transit. Hey, where it says transit, anywhere on the website, if it says transit, I should be able to click transit and it'll bring me to transit. Or I can click elections, it'll bring me right to the elections. Or whatever the tabs are, okay? So that hyperlink is gonna bring you straight to transit. And the first thing that pops up is a notification, changes, okay? If you wanna read the changes, fine, okay? But the rest of the information, whatever you're looking for, is gonna be right there, okay? That's not annoying.
Okay. We'll have to definitely look at it. I'm not sure how to properly implement that for everybody, because it's a tricky feature, I think. It's a tricky feature.
What is the hyperlinks or the notifications?
Balancing the notifications. I think that
Well, what
that
if,
would be tricky.
what if we were to give you the time to think about it? We have another meeting in 2 weeks from today.
Mhm.
And if we could invite you back for that meeting, because we've also got the rest of our committee is able to watch this after, once it's posted to YouTube, and others may have questions, because we don't have quorum today. We were supposed to have quorum, and then, it doesn't take much to upset, one less upset our quorum. But at our next meeting, I think if we meet quorum, we'll be prepared to vote on that. But more questions may arise and more answers may be available at the time. Once you have time to think about what that might look like, would it work?
Well, maybe I'd like to just make maybe a couple quick comments. I think ultimately we're kind of working into the design phase here in many respects, where I think the ask is the accessibility committee willing to put $21,000 out of the reserve count into helping to fund a new website. And I think we're already, which is good to hear. And I think there's definitely, if we're going to design a new website, or if there's going to be a new website project, and the accessibility committee is going to pay for it, the accessibility committee is going to have a role in playing in that design. But I almost feel like and it's great to hear that you're going to get probably 100 more suggestions, which is fantastic. But I think the ask is, I think at this point, you're still trying to determine, is the accessibility committee willing to pay for a portion of a new website? And I think that's what the ask is. I think the discussion is kind of going more to the design.
Yeah,
phase
and in the
of
design
it.
phase, I hear your concerns, but we wouldn't even know how those would be addressed, because we can state what the concern is and what feature we would like to see. But for us to come back and say, well, we'll accomplish it this way, we don't know what the people that are going to respond to, the companies that are responding to that, how they're going to tackle that concern. But what we can do is, if we get a list of concerns or features from the accessibility committee, then we can incorporate those into an RFP, saying these are some of the feature sets and what we would like to see the website accomplish, then it's a matter of the companies that are going to respond back to the RFP to tell us how they're going to do that. Dan can give you, from a programmer standpoint and from his expertise, how he would tackle that. But we have to see how the companies that respond back to that. We're getting into sort of the design, but we can definitely identify your concerns in the RFP moving forward. And that's what I think we're here for. It's not just the funding, but what are some of the challenges that you have? And let's incorporate those challenges to be answered in the RFP.
And can a new website, like, is there a difference between the old and the new website that, maybe we can't deal with those challenges now, but if we have a new website, we can. I think that was certainly important for me and Diane. And I guess as a closing point for me, when we were first approached with this, I think both Diane and I kind of scratched my head at first. And, ultimately I said to myself, okay, we're being asked to fund 1/3 of the website. Is it going to be 30% more accessible as a result of, and I don't know if that's I don't think that's a fair question. And I don't think there's an answer to that, because we don't know what we don't know is going to be in place 5 years from now. But we know that if we have a better back end, we're probably in a better place to achieve whatever we need to achieve in 5 years, whatever new technology they're getting.
And Peter, saying that, I can tell you for sure that the tool that we have now and the infrastructure we have now will not address that. And that's a certainty that what we have today is not going to bring us forward.
And that was important to me. And I think for me, and then I'll be quiet, the other big piece for me that I thought about this was, so many people access our website. I'm sure you guys might have the numbers, but as far as, a barrier removal, we do barrier removal in places all around town that benefit a lot of people, but like everybody that lives here has access to the website. And I would suggest that tens of thousands of people use the website over the course of a year. So that's kind of where my head's at, I guess, on this.
So, Madam Chair, if I could just jump in here quickly. If just a couple of questions and points, I think it's really important, as everyone has mentioned here, that we attain at least that AA standard. I agree that AAA standard would be great, but on your current PowerPoint that you have up here on the regular auditing to ensure compliance, is that included in the $65,000 project cost request?
The regular auditing, I can speak to that. The regular auditing, we can actually do on the free.
Okay.
Now, on the free, you can there's automated tools out there. There's even some in your Google Chrome browser. You press F12, a magic box pops up, you go to the Lighthouse tab. You can do an accessibility scan on any website built right into your browser. So what we can do, and we're actually already doing it on websites sort of as a testing type idea. We can run those, the tool's called Lighthouse. We can run those Lighthouse scans daily on every page of the city website, just as a script. I can come in the morning and I can see what pages failed and why they failed. Now, that being said, automated scanners, I believe the stat says they only catch about 33% of accessibility problems. There's some things that only a human can do. And so making sure that they pass the automated scanners, that should be our minimum standard. We should not accept this website until it passes the minimum script automated scans. Then we step it up to people. Can people pass this website? And that's something that obviously doesn't happen daily. You can't script people to check every page of the website on the daily, but it should be a periodically done thing. And when I hear about a page that's bad. Through the automated scans, I take a look at the page, usually myself, and either correct it or tell people how to correct it. And at the same time, some of the human things will come into play and we'll revisit it. So the regular scanning would be an automated process. It's not perfect. However, it catches a lot of the foreground, background color issues, depending on what the background is. For example, if the text is on a solid color, it'll catch it. If the text is on a photograph, less so. But the automated scanning will at least help make sure that we're not actively producing bad content. That's more what it'll catch is bad content. The template that will be generated by whoever builds the website, that requires the human testing. The ongoing testing against the content, we can script that pretty easily. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you. And I guess my second question is, I went back to the emails and see if there was any documents. I was wondering if we could get a just a bit more of a detailed proposal for the request on the $65,000. Doesn't have to be right now, but I think before we vote on it, at least I would like to see a little bit more of a breakdown on where the money would be going to. But we can deal with that later. Thank you.
And just for clarity's sake, there isn't an ask for 65,000. There's an ask for 21, or basically 1/3 of the cost. So I'm not sure if that's exactly what you meant or what.
Yep. No, that's good. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. We had a slide to kind of address that. So what we're asking this year in the 2023 capital budget request is a project cost of $65,000 for the redesign of the website. Part of the funding will come from the IT software reserve, and then we have the barrier removal reserve that, as Peter alluded to. We're hoping to bring this forward to council for the budget meeting on the 14th and the 15th for approval. And then once we're approved, then the next steps would be sort of the development and release of the RFP. And then we're hoping that, in Q2, we could award it to whoever's, we can award it to. And then hopefully before the year end that we would have something that we could go live with. So that's sort of an outline of the next steps. As far as the detail budget of where the money will be spent, that is more so once we get a copy of the responses, the RFP responses, then we'll know just basically what the money is going to go towards as far as the design and layout of the website.
Great, thank you.
Do you have a company in mind, or people have to bid on it?
Yeah, it basically will be released as an RFP, so our purchasing department would get involved and then just release it out there to they use a company called Merck where they post RFPs. There's a few local companies that are in this web development design, and I'm sure that they will respond to the RFP as well.
With it being something to do with the city, okay, why, just a suggestion, I don't even know if it can be done actually, why not approach the university or the college, one of their courses, and they can do it as a project?
We've kind of done that in the past. The problem with projects is that when the group of individuals that has completed that project, the support of that final end result is very difficult because those students, usually they're 4th level year students, they go on and then the support basically will fall either back on IT, which we don't have the resources, or it's designed in such a way that it may be like we're looking at a solution that can be supported by a company. We're looking at putting it into the cloud so that it's hosted by a company for us. So great idea to get students to involve, but it's the support afterwards that becomes a real challenge.
Okay.
Do you have some more information on your slide, on your presentation that we
that's it.
jumped
The,
into?
the next slide is a big question mark.
We're about 5 minutes after our meeting, but does anyone online have any more questions or comments?
I see Marchie's hand is in the
Yeah,
air.
just get rid of the slides. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. I had a bunch of questions, but I'll keep it very short. Frank, how did you determine it's only going to cost $65,000 for the design and the layout?
Well, it's, we sort of looked at what websites of a little at smaller scale and the scale that we're looking at, what we paid for them in the past, Marcia. And I think when we did this many years ago, it was about half of it. So we kind of came up with this number just by seeing what we paid for in the past. It may come in less, hopefully it won't come in more, but and part of the cost will be like an ongoing support cost, but that will be covered by the IT budget.
Okay, and just to reaffirm, Diane, it's the $21,000 basically what we're discussing today, from the reserve to put towards this RFP that's going to be going out, right?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah, I'm all in favor of it. Thank you.
So that's 1/3.
1/3 the cost of the projected cost of 65-ish.
So the total amount, why can't it, instead of just 1/3 to us, okay? Why isn't it divided up through everything? Because it's going to benefit everybody. So instead of 1/3, why isn't it
132?
1/4?
I know what you're, yeah. That's the way the ask was presented to us,
Okay.
right? That's the way the ask was presented.
Is there any way of changing that ask? 'Cause I think she makes a good point on the divvying up of it.
Well, I think, you know, and I can get those answers. I mean, and Frank, you might have that answer, but I think essentially I think we're probably headed for a fairly tough budget year, right? There's been a lot of inflation, costs are going up. And I think in trying to bring forward these capital requests to council, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe even if the accessibility committee approves and says, you know, we're happy to spend $21,000, council still has to approve spending $65,000. This is just so that staff can tell council in February, this is where this pot of money can come from, in that it's existing money. They're not asking for an increase to the levy. And I think ultimately it's trying to find existing money and do more with less. And that's why I think the ask is essentially the way that it is. I don't know if that directly answers your question, but. You're on mute, Margie.
How long,
I said good one.
and when do you expect it to be finished? Like
Completely done.
Completely
Well,
done.
we're hoping if things go according to plan that by the end of 2023, so by the end of next year, we'll have a website that's actually live. Hopefully it'll be sooner, but it usually will take, if once approved in February, it'll take at least 2 to 3 months for us to put an RFP, release it, get the responses back, evaluate them, which during the evaluation, we'll have some committee members be part of that evaluation committee, make a decision, and then award it, and then the development starts. So if anywhere during that time frame it gets delayed, then the whole project gets delayed. But I think the timeline that we put together is, I think, somewhat reasonable.
Well, it needs to be done. It
Definitely.
definitely needs to be done.
Yeah.
I agree.
I have one more question. So if this happens and we've got a new website at the end of next year, what do we think the lifespan of that website will be? How will it be as future-proofed as possible to get longevity out of it?
Right. And as you can see, the current website is 10 years old and it's functional. Like it's still doing everything. There's some things that we'd like to do more with it. But it's fulfilling its purpose of serving out information to the public. So I would assume like we should be able to get another 10 years, I would think.
Yeah,
at the
and
very
if
least.
the way we're gonna do the ask is that it's gonna be a company that will be providing the solution and hosting the solution. So, I mean, provided that the company is around and hosting the website for us, they're in the website design business. So as they grow or if they better their system or better their environment, we'll be the beneficiaries of that. So hopefully it'll be good. I mean, even some of the local companies that are in this business have been around for the last 10 or 15 years and they're still here. So I can foresee if we pick the right company, it'll be around for the next 10 years.
The way it is now, it is not accessible. It's not. Okay, so it has to be changed. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. It has to be changed. And there's a lot of things that need to be changed on it. Okay, now, the things that need to be changed on it, when you do get this company, okay, they're gonna ask for people's suggestions, what need to be changed and everything. And then if it's good for another 10 years, then we're good.
And it could also be that we revisit it as you know, maybe a year or two down the road, or we revisit it on a regular basis, like Dan mentioned, that if enhancements need to be made, they can be made. Because the technology, you're going to keep the technology as current. These companies are in this business. They have the latest technology. So if we have to introduce a level 3 component, we could ask that company to do that and provide that component to us. Where right now we're closed with the solution we have that we can't even introduce that component. So by you know, having this as provided to us as a service, like as a website hosting service, we'll be able to make enhancements more easily.
Does anyone else have any questions or comments? I apologize, we are over time that we said we would be, but if there's anything else.
I just want to say that we do need an upgrade on the system. I don't know if I'm live, but this is Derek here. We do need an upgrade on the system, especially when it comes to our Parabus. We need to start adding an app so that people get their actual times from the dispatch. So we're not always calling after hours or inspector or whatever. So with that, I'm going to leave you because I have to go. And
Thank you, Derek. So I think you've got some kind of suggestion for Parabus, and we'll talk about that some more, okay?
okay, I just wanted to make sure, like, get an app for Parabus and the bookings after we get them, like we receive them, then they need to go on a cell phone so that we know our times, so we're not late for our bookings.
Okay.
So, but we'll talk.
All right, thank you, Derek.
So
Okay,
thank you guys for having me, and have a good Christmas, guys.
thanks. Well, we'll see you in 2 weeks, Derek.
Okay, well, yeah, there's just.
All right, thank you. Thank you, everybody online, and thank you.
Sorry, next steps, like what are our next steps here?
Oh, Jordan signed off. That's okay.
Just in terms of next steps, it is the intent to bring this back on the 12th
For a vote,
for a vote.
for a vote. That is
Okay.
the next steps. Yeah.
Okay.
Or
December.
Yes, and yes. and
Sorry, 12th is council for
13th.
yeah.
Yeah, so that will be next steps.
Okay, and we will need a quorum at that point, for
I'll
sure.
need confirmed quorum.
Okay, and you'll want Dan and Brent to attend that meeting as well?
In case anything else pops up, you're welcome.
Okay.
We'll have some cookies.
And coffee.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
All right, thank you very
Thanks,
much,
everyone.
everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night.
Quorum, we need to have double the people.
Well, let's hope at our next meeting, we will